put quotation marks or make me look smart. This is my understanding of this, right? What is forgiveness? This truth has helped me so much. It's releasing the unforgiven and moving toward your intended future. When we talk about trauma, we talk about that chain that keeps us back here, right? It keeps us chained to our past. Forgiveness is having that chain, but holding it in your hand. You're not chained to it. It's not wrapped around you. You're holding on to it. You see, we think of unforgiveness this way. If I forgive them, I'm letting them off the hook. If I forgive them, I'm letting them get away with something. If I forgive them, then we like to make them accountable to us, because that's what unforgiveness is. It's saying you are accountable to me, and I'm not going to let go of it. When we forgive, we're opening our hands, we're letting go of that chain. Really what we're doing is we're releasing them. And I would say this, we're releasing them to be accountable to God and to others for what they've done. They're not accountable to me. They're accountable to others. But what that does practically is it allows me to move toward my intended future. I can move forward in my life because I've let go of that chain of unforgiveness. I've released them, if you will, allowing them to be accountable, but enabling me to move forward in a meaningful way. We don't like to forgive because we want the power of keeping people accountable to us. And it's nuts that we do that. With the person we're married to, with our kids, with our family members, with co-workers. We're not God. I know we sometimes have like this God complex, right? You hurt me, you did this, you did that. Yeah, that's everybody. But as long as we hang on to that, we will not be able to move forward. So how do we forgive? We've got all three right here on this one slide. Maybe you'll see a theme. Number one, decide to forgive. Decide to forgive. Every class I've taught, I think the first step is decide. Because we have to decide. We give so much power away. It's crazy. We give so much power to our circumstances, to other people, to our past, to our upbringing, to our education. It's almost like we feel as though somehow we'll stumble into doing the right thing, and we wonder why we don't do the right thing. Because we don't make the decision to do the right things. The problem with forgiveness is that there is so much emotion wrapped up in it. There are absolutely times that I know my wife is right, or I was hurt over something stupid and I need to forgive her, but I'm so mad or so emotional that I don't want to, right? That's why decisions are important. You'll notice that there is not on this list anything that says, feel like you should. Feel like you want to. Get to the place where you just really want to forgive. None of those are on here. Now check this out. If you decide to forgive and you put things in a proper perspective, which we'll talk about, and you act, you take the right steps, eventually you will feel like it, but feeling follows the decision. It doesn't precede it. This is just like love, right? This is not on this in this class, but it fits here. What is love? Love is making a decision to do what is best for the object of our love. That's what love is. Love is making a decision to do what is best for the object of our love. We get this so wrong. We get our emotions mixed up in it, and I feel or don't feel, or I want or don't want. That has no place here. Emotions are great. Emotions are wonderful. We talked about the bridges, right, last night. Emotions can be incredibly powerful. We want to feel. You want to feel like you love someone, all that, but that's not where it starts. Love is making a decision. I'm going to do what's best for them, not for me. What's best for them. Forgiveness begins by saying, I know how I feel right now, but I also know what's best for them. I'm going to decide to forgive. Go on to the next one. All right. Put things into proper perspective. Oh, sorry. Hold on. There you go. All right. Put things into proper perspective. A couple of things here. We have an example in the Bible, and again, I can't understand forgiveness without the Bible, because it doesn't come natural to us. The example that we have given in Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 32 is Jesus Christ, and I think that's a great example for us. So when we put things into perspective, we need to start, first of all, by seeing it correctly. I just mentioned this. If God could forgive us because of what Jesus did in our place, and if that standard that God calls us to is the murder of the Creator, Jesus Christ, right? That's the standard. Then what could someone possibly do to you that meets that standard? Okay, so first of all, we're getting perspective, right? Put things into the proper perspective. We're forgiven by God the Creator, even though we as humanity murdered His Son. And if God can forgive us, then we should be able to do the hard work of forgiving our wife, our husband, our children, the people that we say we care about. So we're putting it in the proper perspective. The second thing we can do is ask this question: why in the world would they do this? Consider why they did it. This is a helpful question when you're trying to understand what's going on, when you're trying to put things in the proper perspective. How do I forgive? Well, I'm going to decide to forgive. I need to put things in the right perspective. Okay, this is not what happened to me, doesn't exceed what happened to Jesus. All right, so there's room for me to figure this out. Now let me ask this question: why would they possibly do this? There's a truth that everyone is hurting to some extent. Everyone has a past. Everyone, to one degree or another, is insecure. Everyone needs Jesus. Everyone, including the person that just said something or did something unkind to you. We are so willing to give grace to ourselves when we hurt someone, when we offend someone, when we do something unkind. We're so quick to say, well, I did that because of my parents, my siblings, my day, my experiences over there, whatever. We're so quick to excuse away our bad behavior. And we want the person that we've hurt to say, hey, why would you do this? And we want to explain that to them. And yet we are unwilling to extend grace to those who've hurt us. It can be very helpful, having decided to forgive when putting things into proper perspective, to just try to get an understanding. Where are they coming from? Why would they say this? What hurt is happening in their heart? Where are they coming from? Why would they do this right now? It's extending grace. Really what that is seeing people the way God sees them. We want to be loved and accepted by God. And yet we're so quick to hold the people that we say we care about in our lives accountable to us. We need to instead strive to see people the way God sees them. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 3 says, let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself. Let each of you look not only for his own interests, but also for the interests of others. That's Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Man, what's the secret here? It's to get out of your emotions, to get the right perspective, having made the decision to forgive, and then taking the steps to actually forgive. We need to act. Let me give you a couple things here. I'll give you these things in my experience. Number one, I would say pray. Pray. What do you pray? I'll write these things down if you'd like to. Psalm 116, verse 1. I love the Lord because he has heard my voice and my supplications. Verse 2. Because he has inclined his ear to me, therefore I will call upon him as long as I live. I think the first thing you should do in this acting in response to forgiveness is to pray. You need to ask God for wisdom, as we talked about over the last couple of days. But when we allow our response to be, instead of being unkind, to go to God and say, God, help me to know what to do here, what we're doing is making ourselves accountable to God. And that puts us in the right, not only frame of mind, but in the right place to then take the next step. We need to focus on our relationship with God. Again, what does this do? So act. What am I going to do? I'm going to go to God in prayer. And then I'm going to focus on my relationship with God. I can say it this way. I need to focus on being right instead of demanding that other people are right. We want justice. Again, we want the person who's hurt us to be accountable to us. So we will demand that they become right to our standard, whatever that standard is. We've made ourselves to be God. When really what we should do is go to God for wisdom and then focus on being right before Him personally. They're not responsible to you. The question is, are you doing the right thing? Are you being right? Are you acting right? Are you responding the way that God would have for you to respond? Have a perspective that's bigger than this moment. And then finally, learn from your experiences. There's so much to be learned in having been hurt. James chapter 1 and verse 2. My brothers, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience, but let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. We have so much to learn and so many areas in which we can grow, and often pain and hurt and unkindness is the catalyst we need to experience that growth. So we release others. Why? So that we can move into our intended future, into what God has set in front of us. We let go of them. We no longer hold them accountable to us, so that we can go forward the way that God wants us to move forward. And we allow the growth to take place that will never take place as long as we hang on to that chain, or hang on to that unforgiveness, or demand that those people around us are accountable to us. Unforgiveness, man, this is where we live. We get so much emotion mixed up in this. And we have to separate ourselves from how we feel, make a decision, put things into the right perspective, and take steps forward. What are the results of forgiveness? A release from bitterness and resentment. So often it's reconciliation with the other person. It is renewal in your soul and in the soul of the person who you've had to forgive. There's a reason this comes up probably in every marriage conference that's ever taken place. Anytime we talk about relationships, there's a reason forgiveness always comes back. Because this is where so many of us struggle. And if we're willing to fight this fight, and it may be an everyday fight, and for the bigger issues of life, maybe we need to get help to put things into perspective and to act. We might need counselors or friends or pastors or chaplains or others to come alongside of us and help us with this. But if we're willing to put in the work to release others, to make ourselves accountable only to God, there's so much power and so much peace that comes from doing what we were created to do. We said last night that we need to make a decision to move forward. The traumas, the trials, the difficulties of life, they'll jump up in front of us, and when they do, we get to decide. Are we going to stay where we are and die, or are we going to take those steps forward? All right, let's make that decision. Well, why would we make that decision? Why would we not just do the easier thing? Because we should be living with the end in mind, living with our legacy in mind. We're building a life that matters. We're building something that we can leave to others, that they can use to carry forward in their lives. That's the why. All right, we're going to move forward. We know why, but there's so many difficulties. There are things that keep us from moving forward. Trauma keeps us from moving forward, for sure. Deal with that trauma. Choose life. It's not going to be easy, but we get to decide how we respond in the midst of that difficulty. Between that thing that happens to us, the stimulus, and how we respond, the response, there's space. In that space, there is power to decide. We get to do that. But then we meet another obstacle. What's the other obstacle to us moving forward? So often it is a lack of forgiveness. And guys, I'm telling you, I know how it feels to be mad. I know how much we don't want to let go of those bad feelings for whatever reason, because we're all crazy. I know how emotional it is. But if you value your relationships and your future more than whatever has hurt you, you're going to make the decision, you're going to get things in the right perspective, and you're going to act. What are you going to do? I know this isn't easy. The reason I know it's not easy is because we have to talk about it all the time. And because we'll probably get in a fight later this afternoon, and I'll have to go through this process myself, right? Because that's just the human experience. But if you'll take this seriously, if you trust God, if you'll forgive, there is so much